Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. Corey and Chad here getting an update from AbraSilver Resource, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol ABRA and on the OTCQX under the symbol ABBRF. We are chatting with the president and CEO, John Miniotis. Now, we've one main news release to touch on that came out January 2nd, and it's focused on the company's, let's call it second project here, La Coipita. That is in Argentina, and the company announced a proposed earn-in option and joint venture agreement with Teck Resources. Teck has the option to earn 80% interest in the project through funding $20 million US in expenditures over 5 years and making a series of different payments to AbraSilver, mostly in cash and one subscribing for shares, plus also paying underlying option cash payments to the project vendors. So, John, before we get into the details here, look, this project is one where you're looking for large porphyries. It takes a lot of money to drill out a project like this. Having Teck on board, well, they have the funds to drill something like this. So how important was it for the company, AbraSilver, to bring on a major to truly explore this project?
Yeah, great question. Thanks very much for having me back. Yeah, I'd say, look, this is for us, of course, our focus is on Diablilos, but we were fortunate enough a couple of years ago now to consolidate this very large land package. It's 70,000 hectares or 700 square kilometers. So a massive, massive land package here in what's now widely seen as being, I'd say, one of the most prospective copper belts anywhere in the world. So this is in the San Juan province of Argentina, straddling the border with Chile. And so there's a host of a number of large-scale copper porphyries in this district. And so the goal for us has always been, as we consolidated this project here, we'd like to selectively drill a couple holes here, which is what we did over the past couple of years, and then look to bring in a major or look to, vend this project out. And so, as you mentioned, I mean, the target here is a very large scale porphyry here. And so we're delighted to bring in Teck as a partner here. I think it's great terms for both companies. And I think the probability now of making a large-scale discovery here in the near term has significantly increased on the back of this transaction.
Yeah, John, it's very nice to see a company with the caliber and expertise of Teck Resources coming in as the operator here, doing the heavy lifting for the company. And going after a copper porphyry is an expensive endeavor. So you want somebody with deep pockets to go after that, while you keep the main thing on the silver-oriented targets that you have over at Diablilos, the whole project there, and you can keep that fire going while Teck is working over here. Could you walk us through, though, how this option agreement will work, some of the finer details, how the options payment come in, some of the timelines around this agreement?
Sure. So Teck essentially has an option to earn to 80% of the project. And so in order for them to do that, they would have to spend $20 million US on exploration here over the next 5 years. They would have to make $3 million in payments to us. $500,000 would be up front. $1 million would be as a share subscription, a placement into us, essentially 12 months from now. And then the final cash payment again would be for $1.5 million, and that's in 4 years' time. And that would just be cash only. So they would make a cash payment to us, not receive any shares for that final payment. And then they would have to pay about $6.3 million in option payments to the original vendors. So when we acquired this project, there was a series of option payments that we needed to make to earn 100% interest. Teck will now take over those payments. And so they would make all those option payments going forward at their discretion. And that, as they contribute to those, that would help them earn into their 80% interest in the overall project here. And at the end of the day, look, if they make a large scale discovery here, we would have 20% of a large scale porphyry, which we would need to help fund our 20% interest of. And if we wanted to, we could not fund and then just at the end of the day receive a 1.1% NSR royalty on this large scale prospective project here. So I think it's a great win-win for us. As you just mentioned, look, we'll continue to focus on Diablilos, and now we've put La Coipita into very, very capable hands. We've had an excellent relationship so far working with Teck. We really respect them and their team greatly. And so we're looking forward to continue to work with them and have them drill here in the very, very near future, and hopefully making a large-scale discovery here.
John, can you just remind everybody some of the work that AbraSilver has done on this project and really potentially what drew Teck in here, what they might be following up on?
So overall, over the last 2 years, I mean, we've drilled essentially 3 deep holes. And so we drilled 2 in 2022. I think the best result in 2022 hit about 220 meters or so of just over 0.4% copper equivalent. So a nice thick intercept of decent copper grades. But yeah, the target, I mean, the surface sort of geochemistry here suggested there's an underlying porphyry system here with dimensions of like 2 kilometers by 1.5 kilometers, like a major system here. And so again, that's going to require deep pockets to do these deep holes. So the holes we were drilling were down to 1.3 kilometers in depth. And so quite expensive drilling here. And so in 2023, we drilled just 1 single hole, and that also intersected, I think it was 700 meters or so, of about 0.2% copper equivalent. And so we've drilled 3 holes. All 3 have hit mineralization over significant thicknesses, but we have not yet hit sort of the main sort of potassic zone where we expect the elevated grades to be located. And so now, again, of course, with Teck and their expertise, if they can find a series of holes at this main Coipita target, that would obviously be great. But then, as I mentioned, this is a massive land package. And so there's about at least 6 different exploration targets here throughout the property. And so I think Teck and their team are evaluating those. And at the right time, we'll look to drill off as many of those as they see feasible.
Well, John, you must be a mind reader, because I was thinking that as you were talking, that when you find a copper porphyry, usually these systems come in clusters and there's usually multiple targets. I was wondering if they were going after some of those other targets. And maybe could you just speak to how their team on the exploration side has been working in conjunction with your exploration team, with Dave and the rest of the crew, as far as providing targeting or providing guidance and where you think some of the juiciest spots to put a drill would be?
Sure. So look, I mean, the deal has not been fully finalized as of yet. And so we're looking to sign definitive agreements within the next 2 weeks or so here. And then once that definitive agreement is signed, that's when Teck will officially be taking over here, operatorship. But yeah, we've been having dialogues with Teck now going back for a few months. And so it's been, an excellent relationship, I'd say. I mean, we've shared, of course, all of the data that we've had with the project with them, had multiple conversations with them and their exploration team. And so, yeah, we've bounced ideas back and forth with each other. I think they really like the employees that we had down at La Coipita. And then, yeah, going forward, I think, ultimately it's going to be in their discretion as to which targets they drill.
All right, well, let's move over to more of the company's focus here, the Diablilos project, again, also in Argentina. Big stepping stone for the company this year will be the PFS, pre-feasibility study, planned to be released in Q1 of this year. But let's start off with the drilling that is ongoing, where the focus will be, please.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the next major milestone for us is completing the pre-feasibility study at Diablilos. That's well underway, so we expect that to be completed this quarter, so within the next 2 months here. In terms of drilling, again, I mean, we ended the phase 3 program late last year. I think it was around August or so. So we completed the phase 3 program. Now we've announced the updated resource, which incorporates all of that drilling. We have yet to commence the next phase, which is the phase 4 program. We're looking to announce the pre-feas study first, and then essentially announce sort of the size of the next campaign. I mean, we have multiple high priority targets here, from the Jack North zone, Alpaca, Fantasma, Ladderas. I mean, there's a series of deposits here. And so we're still going through those, prioritizing those, coming up with sort of a proposed drill campaign, which our board, of course, will need to approve. And then, yeah, we expect once we announce the pre-feasibility study, we look to recommence drilling, continue to increase the resource, and then put all of that into the future bankable feasibility study here.
Well, John, as you just mentioned, you don't have the definitive plan out for the drilling, but I just got to ask you for your opinion on this. Out of the different targets you have that are newer, obviously Jack was a huge success for the company over the last year and a half, but with Jack North, Phantasma, Alpaca, some of those gap areas that may connect those deposits, is the exploration team leaning towards one of those as the next big priority target that would get more drilling than, let's say, the other areas, or will it be an even spread amongst all those targets?
Yeah, I think initially it's going to be pretty even. So Phantasma, looking to connect Phantasma to the main Oculto deposit, there's essentially a kilometer there in between where there's been very little drilling done historically. We think those two deposits could ultimately likely connect. And so looking to grow the size of Phantasma and essentially grow that towards Oculto would be one of the key focuses for sure. But then last year, just to the northern portion of Jack, we had this new Jack North zone. And then beyond that, we have another zone called Alpaca. And so drilling out that new zone as well is for sure going to be a high priority. And so, there's several targets here. And then once you start drilling, depending on the results, that's when you can sort of focus on one or two zones here. But there's multiple targets. So I think we're in a very, very fortunate position for sure as an exploration company, having more targets than you have drills available to drill at any given time.
So for that pre-feasibility study, a lot of eyes are going to be on that. And what most investors look at these days is capital costs to make sure those can be controlled and what type of a payback period the capital will get. And again, just kind of the overall economics. So where are you going to be looking? What should investors take away and be focused on when we do get that PFS?
Yep. So we had a PEA study done 2 years ago, so in January of 2022. So fairly recently. I mean, not too much has changed since then. I'd say the major change has now been the incorporation of the Jack zone. So we have Jack, which is closer to surface, much higher grade. So that's for sure going to help with the payback. But yeah, ultimately, if you look at that PEA study, it already had a very robust rate of return. It had a 30% after-tax IRR, close to $500 million Canadian net present value, very quick payback, even without Jack. So we're going to be refreshing all those figures, of course, CapEx, OpEx. There's been some general inflation for sure anywhere in the industry, and we're not immune to that. But at the end of the day, look, this is open pit mining. And so you're moving a large amount of material, which you can do on a very cost efficient basis. And so we still see Diablillos for sure as being in the lowest cash quartile here on the operating cost curve. This is going to be bulk scale mining, open pittable with an agitated leach plant here. So nothing novel, straightforward, tried and true open pit mining. And so, yeah, no, we're looking forward to updating all of the key figures here when we announce the pre-feasibility study.
All right, John, thank you very much for this update. We'll post a link to the AbraSilver website where you all can read over the recent news. And as always, please send us any questions that you have for the team at AbraSilver. John, thank you again for your time in this update. I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.